I will not vote in favor of a committee report that is a product of a flawed deliberative process.
I cannot support the transmission of the articles of impeachment to the Senate.
As the youngest representative of the Philippine House of Representatives present here today, I speak on behalf of my hopes for a bright future for our nation that is free from corruption and against the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Tinawagan po ako ng nanay ko at sinabihan ako na huwag mang-away, kaya ang aking manifestation ngayong hapon ay para lang sabihin na huwag sanang parusahan ang 63 miyembro ng Kongreso na hindi bumoto para sa impeachment.
Your Honor, let me read my explanation of no vote.
Ako po'y tumatayo ngayon upang ipaliwanag ang aking botong no.
Mr. Speaker, my vote of no reflects the voice of my people in the 3rd District of Bohol.
I rise to explain my vote of no to the articles of impeachment.
I vote no. Impeachment must be strong enough to survive the Senate, the courts, and our history. This one is not.
During the 19th Congress, it was a no. And for the 20th Congress, it still remains a no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, overwhelmingly, they are not in favor of the impeachment against the Vice President. And being their representative, I have to listen to them. Kaya ang pagboto ko ng no ay dala ko ang boses ng taga-Agusan del Norte.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no.
My vote is no, guided by my commitment to listen to the voice and sentiments of the majority of my constituents in the 2nd District of Bohol.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues. I vote no to the committee report recommending the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. I will not vote in favor of a committee report that is a product of a flawed deliberative process. Let me be clear. This vote is not a vote against accountability. This is a vote for constitutional discipline. Impeachment is the gravest political remedy under our Constitution. It cannot rest on shortcuts, spectacle, or evidence gathered through a process that looks less like a constitutional proceeding and more like a fishing expedition. The vulnerability of this entire process is plain. The committee conducted hearings when both houses of Congress were not in session. That alone raises serious questions on authority, timing, and regularity. Then, instead of remaining with the verified complaints and their attachments, the committee gathered new evidence, expanded the theory of the case, and built allegations beyond what the respondent was originally required to answer. Hindi pwede na magsimula tayo sa isang complaint, tapos habang tumatakbo ang hearing, palalawakin natin ang kaso hanggang maging ibang kaso na ito. Due process is not a technicality. It is the constitutional shield of every Filipino, including those we dislike, those we oppose, and those we fear politically. I am especially troubled by the Anti-Money Laundering Council disclosures. Section 8-A of the amended Anti-Money Laundering Act protects the information received or processed by the Council. If confidential financial intelligence reached this committee through a legally defective route, then we are being asked to rely on fruits of a poisonous tree. Isa pa, kung matibay at malakas ang committee report na ito, bakit kailangan mangako di umano ng pabuya tulad ng pera, dagdag allowances, at release ng projects sa mga boboto ng yes at mananakot na hindi i-release ang mga projects at baka kakasuhan daw ang mga boboto ng no. Sa lahat ng boboto ng yes, ito daw, reportedly, ang gantipalang kanilang matatanggap. 20 million cash incentives, 5 million additional MOOE, and 200 million additional projects. Kung totoo man ito, sa cash incentive pa lang at additional MOOE, at kung 200 plus ang bumoto ng yes, ay halos 6.3 billion pesos na ang gagastusin para lang iparating sa Senado ang articles of impeachment. At tahimik pa din ang Kamara sa trilyong pisong flood control scam. Tapos galit na galit tayo at nag-iingay pagdating naman sa 125 million at 600 million confidential funds ni VP Sara na wala namang direktang ebidensyang ibinulsa niya ito. Kung buhay lang si General Luna sa kanyang karakter sa pelikula, baka nasigawan kayo. Anong klaseng kahipokrituhan ito? This impeachment process is not really for accountability. Far from it. This is an elimination of a formidable political rival using a whole-of-government approach. Ginagamit ang buong puwersa ng gobyerno, gumugugol ng bilyong-bilyong piso ang pera ng taong bayan para gapitin, alisin sa pwesto ang taong takot na takot kayong maging presidente. Ano ba ang kinakatakot nyo? Ang laki siguro ng kasalanan ninyo sa mamamayang Pilipino. On the Vice President's outburst, of course, public officials should speak with care. But we must be equally careful not to convert political speech, even harsh, angry, or offensive speech, into an impeachable offense without proving intent, operational reality, and constitutional gravity. To end my speech, Mr. Speaker, hindi sapat ang sinabi ng Vice President Sara para mapawalang bisa ang pagkakuha niya ng pinakamalaking boto sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. Tatanggalin natin ang mandato mula sa 32,208,417 na sambay ng Pilipino na nagtiwala at patuloy na nagtitiwala kay Vice President Sara. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I vote no. Impeachment must be strong enough to survive the Senate, the courts, and our history. This one is not. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, we debate this impeachment at a time when Filipino people are facing a crisis far larger than the political conflict inside this chamber. The world is being shaken by war, energy disruption, and commodity shocks. Energy prices are projected to surge 24% this year because of the Middle East war, with commodity prices forecast to rise by 16% and inflationary pressures expected to hit us the hardest. For the Filipino family, these numbers mean higher fuel prices, higher transport costs, higher food prices, and even shrinking household budget. Inflation has already surged to 7.2% in April 2026. And yet, in the middle of this economic storm, Congress is being asked to devote its gravest constitutional power to an impeachment case built on complaints that remain constitutionally infirm, procedurally defective, and factually incomplete. Let us be clear, not impeaching the Vice President does not mean she can no longer be held accountable. Hindi po totoo na kapag hindi tinuloy ang impeachment, wala nang kaso. If there is graft, file graft case. If there is malversation, file a malversation case. If there is unexplained wealth, file the proper case before the proper court. The Vice President is not absolutely immune from suit under the Constitution. And once she is no longer Vice President, she becomes fully subject to ordinary criminal and civil processes without the political complications of an impeachment. Accountability is never lost. Accountability is not achieved through impeachment alone. Accountability must serve justice and not political convenience. It must be fair, constitutional, and consistent. If impeachment is to be used to remove a sitting Vice President, then the House must apply the highest standard, not the lowest. We must demand ultimate facts, competent evidence, personal participation, and clear acts constituting the impeachable offenses. That is why the harder question must be asked. With barely 2 years left in her term, what good will the impeachment do for our country? Will it lower prices? Will it solve the energy crisis? Will it return stolen public funds? Will it fix flood control corruption? Or will it only deepen division in our already divided nation and turn the national agenda into another prolonged political war? For this reason, impeachment is lost when the motives behind it become suspect. Justice is not achieved when accountability becomes only a consolation prize for a political conflict. Let us not pretend that what we are witnessing is purely a principled constitutional process. The public sees the bitter conflict between former allies. They see a struggle for political supremacy. They see the risk that the instrumentalities of government is being used to destroy political opponents. Committee report number 261 itself shows the weakness of this process. The Committee on Justice did not merely evaluate the complaints, it built the case after the complaints were filed. Hindi impeachment screening ang ginawa ng komite. Case building ang ginawa. An impeachment complaint must stand on its own from the beginning. It must contain ultimate facts. It must allege acts constituting impeachable offenses. It must show personal participation and legal nexus. Hindi pwedeng kulang ang reklamo tapos ang komite ang maghahanap ng ebidensya sa pamamagitan ng subpoena, AMLA record, BIR record, SEC record, NBI files, at testimony ng witness na inilabas pa sa bilangguan para lang punuan ang kakulangan. The committee received testimony and documents that limited meaningful testing. Kung gagamitin ang ebidensya para iakyat ang impeachment, dapat pinapayagan din subukan ang credibility, authenticity, personal knowledge, and relevance. The evidentiary record is not merely weak, it is compromised. The committee took the word of Ramil Madriaga, a convicted criminal, as though it was gospel truth. In any fair proceeding, the testimony would have been received with extreme caution, subjected to searching scrutiny and corroborated by independent evidence. Instead, it was used as a pillar for probable cause. The committee received most from a government official appointed only a week before appearing in front of the committee on matters involving documents protected by law that should have triggered restraint, not haste. It should have demanded safeguard, not political momentum. Most troubling, the executive director of the Anti-Money Laundering Council presented AMLAC-related figures but did not disclose a material qualification in the report. That BPI had requested correction of certain reported transactions because of bank system issues. The omission matters because it affected the public understanding and supposed billions attributed to Attorney Maneses Carpio and by extension the unexplained wealth narrative, ang layo-layo ng 2.33 billion sa 2.11 million sa transaction record. Pero hindi ito bilanggit sa komite kahit nasa AMLA report mismo. If this is the evidentiary foundation of impeachment, then the foundation is cracked. The committee framed 19 years of transactions as if they were proof of wealth. That is misleading. Ang AMLA report ay daloy ng perang nagpapakita ng aggregate inflow at outflow ng lahat ng financial transaction na pumapasok at lumalabas sa bank account ng depositor, lalo na kapag nagkakahalaga ng higit sa 500,000 piso. Ang salin ay larawan ng ari-arian, both personal and real, on a specific date. Hindi pwedeng ibangga ang dalawa para gumawa ng artificial discrepancy dahil hindi talaga magtutugma. On bribery, report relied on envelopes, reimbursement, and alleged monetary gifts to DepEd officials. But bribery has elements. Nasaan ang kapalit? Nasaan ang Procurement Act? Nasaan ang official action na binili? On the threat-related charges, the committee relied on public statements, video clips, transcripts, NBI records, and press remarks, but walang nahanap o naipresentang hired gun. Public statements, even offensive or reckless ones, do not automatically constitute sedition. Insurrection, conspiracy, or assassination. The law still requires overt act, intent, and factual nexus to unlawful action. Hindi lahat ng masamang salita ay krimen, lalo na kung wala namang overt act. Hindi lahat ng galit ay sedition at hindi lahat ng political rhetoric ay insurrection. On confidential funds, the committee relied on co-observation, notices of disallowance, and alleged liquidation irregularities. These are serious matters, but they do not automatically become malversation, plunder, graft, or impeachable offenses. A COA finding is not a conviction. An audit observation is not proof of criminal intent. A notice of disallowance is not by itself proof that the Vice President stole public funds. The law requires more unlawful. The law requires more unlawful appropriation, personal participation, intent, and direct attribution to the respondent. Yan ang dapat ipinakita.
Representative Suntay, please wrap up.
Ang problema ng Committee Report number 261 ay hindi lamang pagkakulang ng ebidensya. Ang mas mabigat na problema ay ang paraan ng pagbuo ng ebidensya. The committee began with a constitutionally weak complaint, expanded the record through broad subpoenas, limited meaningful testing, and treated the resulting record as if it cured the original defect. Impeachment must meet higher constitutional standards, Mr. Speaker, because it seeks to overturn an electoral mandate. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. received 31,629,783 votes. Vice President Sara Duterte received 32,208,417 votes. Those votes do not place anyone above accountability, but they demand restraint, seriousness, and fairness before Congress attempts to remove an elected national official. It was for this reason that I voted no to the impeachment complaint filed against President Marcos, and it is for the same reason that I oppose the impeachment complaint against the Vice President. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. It is not absolute in law, but it is sacred in democracy. Boses ito ng manggagawa, na kulang sa sahod, pasyenteng naghihintay ng tulong, commuter, magsasaka, mangingisda, magulang at kabataang pagod na sa gobyernong laging uli sa krisis. Boses ng mga Pilipinong sawa na sa politika at naghahangad lamang ng kasaganahan at pagbabago. For this reason, I cannot support the transmission of the articles of impeachment to the Senate. The country needs accountability, yes, but accountability that is fair, consistent, and constitutional. The country needs action on corruption, yes, but action that applies to all, not only to one political target. The country needs justice, yes, but justice that does not confuse impeachment with the only path to accountability. For fidelity to due process, for consistency with our own rules, and for respect for the sovereign mandate of the Filipino people, I vote no.
Mr. Speaker, tinawagan po ako ng nanay ko at sinabihan ako na huwag mang-away, kaya ang aking manifestation ngayong hapon ay para lang sabihin na huwag sanang parusahan ang 63 miyembro ng Kongreso na hindi bumoto para sa impeachment. Ito po ay para sa kapakanan ng mga constituents, mga distrito at sektor ng ating mga kasamahan. At sana, dahil malambot ang puso ng liderato ng Kongreso at ng gobyerno, huwag natin idamay ang mga nanay na nangangailangan ng pang-tuition sa kanilang mga anak, ang mga lola, ang mga lolo na nangangailangan ng medical assistance, ang mga magsasaka na nangangailangan ng mga farm-to-market roads dahil lamang sa boto ng kinatawan ng iilang mga distrito. Para sa aking mga kasamahan dito na hindi bumoto para sa impeachment, sana i-monitor natin na lahat ng mga naibigay sa budget na alokasyon para sa ating mga distrito ay darating at hindi ide-delay ang release dahil lamang sa ating mga boto. At para sa lahat ng mga nanonood na personally ay pabor sa impeachment, sana pwede nyo ding iparating sa liderato ng Kongreso at ng ating pamahalaan na kahit kayo ay pabor sa impeachment, hindi dapat idamay ang mga mamamayan sa boto ng bawat isa. Maraming salamat po.
Of Cavite, is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the youngest representative of the Philippine House of Representatives present here today, I speak on behalf of my hopes for a bright future for our nation that is free from corruption and against the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte, the only 2028 presidential candidate who is capable of creating that future. Sara Duterte is our nation's most vocal anti-corruption figure, as she is the first one to reveal the massive flood control corruption in the 2025 budget and the involvement of former Speaker Martin Romualdez and Appropriations Chairman Zaldico. VP Duterte is also an admired and respected public figure all throughout our country, which is reflected in the survey results which consistently place her as our #1 presidential candidate for 2028. Yet instead of congratulating her for these achievements, you instead seek to remove her, as you believe that her presidential ambitions will interfere with the traditional political practices that our nation has grown accustomed to. Vice President Sara Duterte is the hope of our nation. She's an accomplished lawyer who deeply cares for our people, as I have personally witnessed when I visited her in Davao City. I will not waste our nation's future, which is why my vote is no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ngayong hapon sa tanan.
Representative Umentado is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mayong hapon sa tanan. My vote is no, guided by my commitment to listen to the voice and sentiments of the majority of my constituents in the 2nd District of Bohol. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Sherlyn L. Banyas Nograles of the Lone District of General Santos City.
Honorable Sherlyn Banyas Nograles, Lone District, General Santos is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no. Let me state at the outset, accountability is non-negotiable. Public office is a public trust, and every public official must remain answerable to the Filipino people. As representatives of the people, we do not speak only for ourselves in this chamber. We carry the voices, concerns, and aspiration of the people we represent. After careful consideration of the facts, arguments, the quiet call of fairness that must guide this chamber, and the sentiments of my constituents, I rise today to cast my vote in accordance with that mandate. Let me be clear. A no vote today does not diminish our duty to demand transparency, uphold accountability, and ensure that all public officials remain answerable to the Filipino people. We must be mindful of the weight of this constitutional remedy. Impeachment is not a routine instrument of political contest. It is an extraordinary measure reserved for the most compelling circumstances. To lower its threshold risks weakening the very institution it is meant to protect. We must also recognize that the office of the Vice President carries the sovereign mandate of nearly 32 million Filipinos. Any effort to remove its occupant must respect the will of the electorate, for in a democracy, legitimacy is ultimately rooted in the voice of the people. Vox populi, vox Dei. But beyond the legal and institutional questions, we are confronted today with a deeper national reality. Our people are weary. They face rising prices, economic strain, and declining trust in public institutions. We must therefore ask ourselves with honesty and sobriety, what lies ahead after this moment? Will it ease the burdens of our citizens or deepen the divisions we already carry? Will it bring us closer to solution or further away from the urgent needs of our nation? Beyond these halls, our citizens continue to struggle with the rising cost of food, fuel, and basic commodities. They seek not prolonged political conflict, but relief, stability, and responsive governance. Perhaps then, this is a moment that calls us not only to decide, but to reflect, not only to proceed, but to reset. Though it may seem impossible at this point, but in the inner recesses of my heart, I remain deeply hopeful. A reset in our politics so that it may return to its rightful purpose. A reset in our priorities so that the burden of our people stand at the center of our deliberations. A reset in our tone so that disagreement does not become division and difference does not become rupture. We are one nation before anything else, and the strength of that nation lies in not in the uniformity of our views, but in our capacity to rise above them when the circumstances of our people demand unity over fracture. In the end, the measure of this House will not be found in the intensity of our disagreements, but in whether in moments of national strain, we chose the path that preserved cohesion, strengthened institution, and gave people space to hope again. Finally, what our nation needs today is calm, not conflict, unity, not division. In time of economic strain and institutional challenges, Our duty is to steady the course of government and remain firmly focused on delivering meaningful solution for our people. It is in the spirit that I am reminded of the guiding wisdom of the Supreme Court. There is a right way to do the right thing at the right time. That is inherent in the rule of law, that is inherent in the rule of justice. For these reasons, with full respect for differing views of my colleagues, I cast my vote no to the articles of impeachment. Maraming salamat.
You know, Mr. Speaker, after my consultation with our constituents in Agusan del Norte, napag-alaman ko po na overwhelmingly they are not in favor of the impeachment against the Vice President. And being their representative, I have to listen to them. Kaya ang pagboto ko ng no ay dala ko ang boses ng taga Agusan del Norte. In fact, it is an expression of the will of the people of my province. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The will of my constituents is clear. For the city of Cebu, 1st District, during the 19th Congress, it was a no. And for the 20th Congress, it still remains a no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. I rise to explain my vote of no to the articles of impeachment. This is not a vote against accountability, nor is it a vote for any personality. This is a vote for the Constitution, for due process, and for the principle that impeachment must never become a political weapon. Impeachment is the gravest constitutional remedy against an elected official. Precisely because it is grave, it must be founded on credible evidence and a fair process. Hindi sapat ang duda, haka-haka o ingay lamang. The complaints must stand or fall on their own allegations and supporting documents. Yet, several affidavits, reports, and alleged findings presented during the hearings, including AMLC reports, alleged NBI findings, and even the COA decision itself, were not attached to the original complaints. Worse, it appears that even evidence was later obtained to cure deficiencies in the complaints. That is a dangerous precedent. Hindi pwedeng magsampa muna ng impeachment batay sa bare allegations, tapos saka pa lamang hahanap ng ebidensya pagkatapos. That is not due process. Tulad nga ng sinabi ni Congressman Marcoleta, that is a fishing expedition. On the confidential funds issue, even Attorney Gloria Camora of the Commission on Audit confirmed during the hearings that there were no findings of misuse under the COA decision being cited. She likewise confirmed that the release of the confidential funds passed through proper approvals, including the Office of the President and the DBM. More importantly, the COA decision is not yet final. A notice of disallowance is an audit action. It is not automatically corruption. It is not automatically theft. It is not automatically an impeachable offense. Dito nga sa sariling bakuran natin, liquidation by certification lang ang ginagawa natin. Pero sigurado ako na tayo ang unang magsasabi na hindi ibig sabihin na may corruption doon. On the AMLC reports, we must also be careful not to mischaracterize covered and suspicious transactions as automatic proof of wrongdoing. Suspicion is not proof, allegation is not conviction. In fact, even the AMLC information sharing report itself reportedly refers to a BPI letter explaining that a supposed 2 billion transaction was actually the result of a system error, and that the real amount involved was only around 2 million pesos. Yet, this annex was allegedly not included in the materials furnished to the members of the House. At the very least, It raises serious questions regarding the completeness, fairness, and integrity of the evidence being presented against the Vice President. The same principle applies to the alleged SALN issues. A discrepancy relating to a SALN does not automatically amount to an impeachable offense. Our laws allow amendments and corrections to SALNs when necessary. Kailangan pa rin ng malinaw at matibay na ebidensya ng sinadyang pagtatago o panlilinlang, which, to my mind, has not been sufficiently established in this case against the Vice President. On the alleged threats, the Vice President's designated survivor remark made in jest was clearly made in reference to the constitutional role of the Vice President to assume the presidency in case of death, resignation, removal, or incapacity of the President. The issue today is not whether one supports or opposes Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte. The deeper question is whether this House will defend the integrity of impeachment itself. Will we respect the line between the House initiation and Senate trial? Will we choose law over noise, evidence over accusation, and fairness over expediency? Let it not be said that at this crucial time in our democracy, this House lowered the constitutional standard because the politics of the hour demanded it. Huwag nating hayaang sabihin ng kasaysayan na ginamit natin ang pinakamabigat na kapangyarihan ng Kongreso hindi para sa katarungan, kundi para sa politika. History will judge this House not only by the vote we casted today, but by whether we had the courage to defend due process when it mattered most. Mr. Speaker, alam naman nating lahat na ang bawat boto natin dito ay may kaakibat na consequences. Maaring may political cost. Excuse me. Maaring may personal cost. Ngunit darating ang panahon na ang mas mahalaga ay kung nanaig ba ang prinsipyo, integridad at paninindigan sa tama. Sapagkat ito ang mga bagay na dapat nating ipamana sa susunod na henerasyon. Darating ang panahon na huhusgahan din tayo ng mga kabataan. Kung ipinaglaban ba natin ang tama kahit mahirap? Sana pagdating ng araw, titingalain tayo ng bagong henerasyon. Hindi dahil sumabay tayo sa agos ng politika, kundi dahil pinili nating manindigan para sa konstitusyon, sa due process at sa tama.
Representative Nasal, please wrap up.
Almost done, sir. God sees everything we do as human beings. At sa huli, higit sa politika, higit sa ingay, higit sa anumang pressure, mananagot pa rin tayo sa mas mataas na pamantayan at ng katotohanan at konsensya. As Abraham Lincoln once said, "My concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right." For that reason, I vote no to procedural overreach. I vote no to incomplete and selective evidence. I vote no to political weaponization of the impeachment process. At higit sa lahat, for the Constitution, for due process, and for the integrity of this House, I vote no to the adoption of Committee Report number 261 and the articles of impeachment.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my vote of no reflects the voice of my people in the 3rd District of Bohol, which includes 436 barangays and 19 municipalities, making it the largest district in Bohol. As their representative, I am responding to their call that there are other urgent priorities to address during this time of crisis. I have thoroughly consulted with our people, and this decision represents the overwhelming majority in my district. Kining akong boto mo'y tinuod nga pagpamalandong sa kabubuton sa atong mga katawhan sa Tercero Distrito. By standing by this decision, I remain committed to protecting our democratic institutions while ensuring that the government's efforts are focused on issues that truly matter to the lives of our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we request to acknowledge Representative Julius Cesar J. Vergara of 3rd District Nueva Ecija to explain his vote.
Honorable Julius Cesar Vergara, 3rd District, Nueva Ecija, is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, ako po'y tumatayo ngayon upang ipaliwanag ang aking botong no. Bagamat nirirespeto ko ang desisyon ng komite sa hustisya at ang proseso nito bilang paraan para mapanatili ang integridad ng ating mga institusyon at mga lingkod bayan. Napunta ako sa no na boto matapos ng mabigat na pag-iisip. Nakita ko na mas dapat unahin ngayon ang mga agarang problema ng ating mga kababayan sa araw-araw. Ang kapakanan ng taong bayan ay dapat unahin sa lahat. Napakaraming problema ng Pilipinas na mas mangingibabaw gaya ng food security at pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin. Noong isang araw lang, nakita ko sa dyaryo ang ating national debt ay 18.5 trillion, hindi dahil sa ating Pangulo, kundi sa rate of exchange na tumaas ng tumaas ng tumaas. Because we are an importing nation. We need the dollars. We need, wala tayong food security hanggang sa maliit na bilihin ay inaangkat pa natin. Sa aking pananaw, ang usaping ito ay hindi makabuluhang paggamit ng oras at atensyon at higit sa lahat, hindi makakabuti sa taong bayan. Ihahayag ito at magiging pangunahing usapin sa lahat ng pahayagan, pati na sa social media, na magdudulot ng iba't ibang opinyon mula sa ating mga kababayan. Hindi masasagot ng impeachment ang mga mas mahalaga na pangangailangan ng higit na nakakaraming Pilipino tulad ng gutom, pagpila na nakikita ko sa aming pangatlong distrito ng Nueva Ecija para lamang bumili ng 20 pesos na bigas sa FTI at NFA. Hindi nito maibsan ang hirap ng buhay at pagtaas ng presyo ng pangunahing bilihin. Suporta sa magsasaka na umaasa sa mga pataba na inaangkat lahat mula sa iba't ibang bansa. At iba pang tulong mula sa gobyerno para sa seguridad at kapakanan ng bawat Pilipino. Ako'y nalungkot at nalulungkot pagka merong mga tahasang nagsasalita na mga batang kong kasama na sinasabi nila na tayo'y binili. Hindi tayo binili. Tayo ay collegial body. Tayo ay nagdesisyon sa ating sarili. Walang pera na namagitan sa ating mga boto. Dapat maintindihan ng bawat isa iyon. Yung mga salitang binitawan ng aking mga kasama na panira sa ating institusyon na ito, sumasagot lamang doon nung ako'y initiate. When I was initiated, tinanong ako, ano ba ang inaasahan mo at ikaw ay naging kongresista? Ang salita ko po ay simple. Titingnan ko lamang po kung titino pa yung ating bansa. Sabi nga, nung pinatay at pinaslang na bayani natin, si General Antonio Luna, na pinaslang sa aming lugar sa Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija. Bayan o sarili? Yon ang pinakamalaking question. Sana yung mga susunod na henerasyon na magsasalita rito at magpagtitiwalaan ng taong bayan, unahin naman sana ang bayan bago ang sarili. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, for the time. Thank you. God bless.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to recognize Representative Isidro T. Ungab of 3rd District, Davao City, to explain his vote.
Honorable Isidro Ungab, 3rd District, Davao City, is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have been a congressman since 2007, and this is the first time that I experience a time limit for interpellation, so only 3 minutes. Pareho lang sa explanation of vote. Yet, I would like to thank the Speaker for giving me a short extension. Pero sa totoo lang, Mr. Speaker, I have more than 100 pages of questions for interpellation. 2 page lang yung nabasa ko. But,
Don't worry, I'll be generous to you today.
Your Honor, let me read my explanation of no vote. I voted no, not to excuse anyone from accountability, but to defend the integrity of impeachment and the fairness of our own process. Let me briefly explain. First, the case we are sending to the Senate is not the same case the Vice President was asked to answer. On March 16, she filed her consolidated verified answer to the Sabalya and Cabrera complaints after the committee had already declared them sufficient in form, substance, and grounds. Only after that did the committee bring in a new supplemental affidavit from Mr. Madriaga, expanded testimony from Antonio Trillanes, detailed AMLC figures running into billions, and NBI DOJ cyber and documentary evidence. All of those April additions are now woven into a single consolidated set of articles, but the respondent was never formally invited to amend her answer to address that expanded case. We strengthened and reshaped the charges, yet we never reopened the door for her to answer them. Second, 2 verified complaints have effectively been turned into something like a new complaint. The Constitution says impeachment must be initiated by a verified complaint. Sabalya and Cabrera did that. They allege misuse of confidential funds, bribery, unexplained wealth, and destabilization. But the consolidated articles go further. They merge and they relabel the grounds into broad patterns of abuse, import specifics from Madriaga's supplemental affidavit, Trillanes annexes, AMLC transaction patterns, and NBI transcripts, and then present a new unified narrative of sustained corruption and command responsibility. On paper, this House still invokes Sabalya and Cabrera, but in substance, we have a different post-April case. The Vice President has never been asked on the pleadings to admit or deny that consolidated expanded version. For me, that combination, changing the case after the answer turning into two complaints into a new consolidated narrative, and doing so on a selective evidentiary base, creates a serious risk of denial of due process and grave abuse of discretion by this House. I believe that if this impeachment is challenged before the Supreme Court, these very defects will be the center of the arguments against us. I repeat, my no vote is not a judgment on guilt or innocence. It is a judgment that this particular committee report and resolution do not meet the constitutional standard of fairness and notice that impeachment demands. We could have required the committee to confine itself more strictly to the verified complaints and to give the respondent a formal chance to answer the consolidated articles before we voted. We chose not to. For those reasons, and out of respect for the Constitution and for the long-term credibility of impeachment as an instrument of accountability, I vote no, Mr. Speaker.